Hello, folks. Welcome to another episode of Fictional Character Motivation. I'm your host, Quan, and today we're going to be talking about practicing self defense, self control, or you might be a werewolf. We're getting right into it, and here we go. The movies we'll be specifically talking on, pretty much my favorites, because they all have something to do with the topic from the low spectrum to the high spectrum, is, of course, the classic American Werewolf in London. Came out in 1981, followed by a collegey sequel. You know what I mean by college, with college students. American Werewolf in Paris, about almost a decade. Yeah, a decade and a good number of years afterwards, 1997 to be specific. But before that happened, there was Stephen King's Silver Bullet, that I like to joke about that it wasn't really a werewolf story. It was more about a werebear story, because the werewolf looked very close to similar with bear-like qualities. Like, it had some werewolf qualities, but it also had some bear-like qualities. And then, the whole moon thing that happened. And then we cannot forget about Dog Soldiers, which was made by one of my favorite directors. His name just skipped, but he is the same director that made The Descent, which is one of my horror movies. Favorite horror movies. And this one is just on there, pretty much featuring smart werewolves. And we cannot mention smart werewolves or dedicated werewolves without mentioning Underworld. And the first one came out in 2003, which I was very proud to go see that in theaters. Very proud. But going into it, hope everyone's doing good, and here we go. Werewolves, or the scientific word lycanthrope, a human that at the command of a full moon, in most cases, must turn into a wolf human monster and goes to satisfy its cravings of prey, meat, and the hunt. So, the metaphor for one of my favorite creatures seems to be, one, having your cravings, impulses control you. Two, being at the mercy of certain triggers. Three, uncontrollable fury. And four, the need to do something wild or do something to relate to the animal side, which is do something not as logical, just do something in the body, do something that uses instincts. Seems to me that the werewolf's real issue is it's emanating is no self-control, no self-discipline. And from seeing the first three movies that I mentioned, American Werewolf in London, Paris, and Silver Bullet, that has a disastrous effect on life and everyone around that person when you think about it. In fact, the only positive one on that list was releasing the animal side, which I go deeper into another vid. I've written about it, I've preached about it. The fact that we as humans are still animals. We're intellectual, we're conscious, spiritual, but we're still animals. So we do need to have some kind of, I believe we do need to obey some kind of animal instinct of, having some movement, going out in nature, being able to express emotion in a kind of primitive way every now and then. But that's just me. If you want to talk about it, we can go deeper into it. If you want to make a video about it, I'll make a video about it. But kind of staying on track here. So, how can we infuse more self-control, more self-discipline, so we don't hurt anyone around us, and most importantly, ourselves? Well, as usual, I have some ideas, mostly in the three number range. First one is understand what it is and what triggers it. We'll all have certain triggers. For instance, for me, one of my weaknesses, one of my uncontrollable cravings is most of the time anything sweet. It ranges from the top level of cake, especially birthday cake, or any kind of cake that has thick icing, very good icing, and it goes down to ice cream and candy. I understand what those are. Those are sugars mostly. Those are really not the good things. And the trigger is most of the time, if I see it, if I can have it, I pretty much go ham. That's my werewolf trigger right there. And in my life, I've also had some other werewolf triggers, or certain relatable werewolf triggers, such as at every once in a while, every blue moon, you would say, I'd have very infused anger. But I know what those triggers are, and I know how to, and since I understand what those are, I know how to avoid, I know how to keep them in check. What I would suggest is pretty much do the same. This can go with not only food, but things that may irritate you, things that may make you sad, things that may, once you do that thing, you realize you're not as energetic, you're not as strong, you're not at your 100% pretty much. So it's good to keep those in mind. Number 2, once you understand what your cravings, what your weakness, and what triggers those things, once you figure those out, either keep it away or keep it at bay till the right time. And most of the times, like my strategy, as I already said, is with those sweets. My strategy most of the time is don't have it. If I don't have it in my house, I won't reach for it. If I see it on the way, or if I think about it on the way to where I'm going, sometimes I just keep driving, and that helps. The thing that I like to pretty much put into terms is don't have it, don't see it, don't be near it. And that goes for pretty much any triggers. Now, let's say if this is something you have to work with, like unreasonable people, then you just have to keep it more in check. And like I said, keep it at bay until the right time. There's been multiple instances. Another trigger, a trigger that pretty much makes me a mixture of sad and pissed off, are car issues. I'm heavily influenced on my car issues. I've recently gotten better, but every now and then, when I'd have car issues, first I'd go into a little bit of a low, and then I get mad because of, X, Y, and Z, something that's out of my control, or something that pretty much I should have kept a closer eye on, but it happens. Most of the time, it's been usually something out of my control that just happens because, a little bit of older cars, and I'd get mad. And one of the ways I would fend off and wait till I'm in the right spot is I pretty much bottle it in. I'd say, hey, wait till we get to a workout, and then we can express that anger. And then when I'm at a spot where it's like, okay, I can work out now, I just infuse that workout with my anger and just pretty much unleash it right there. And I just go hard in there. I go pretty much all in there. And Then after that, I felt a little bit better. I felt like, okay. But like I said, that's part of my strategies. Um, as mentioned, this can be a strategy for you too. You know, but that's number two. Number two is either keep it away or keep it at bay till the right time. And the pretty much oversee of it, the underline of it is don't have it, don't see it, don't be near it. But if you have to be near it, and if it still gives you that energy, uh, keep it at bay until the right time. And last but not least is sometimes you might need to put it to a cause. You may need to make it bigger than yourself. You may, there's been a lot of people, such as Jocko Willink, who pretty much talk about self-discipline, doing the thing. Sometimes just to do the thing, you can maybe infuse it, make that part of your make that part of your pretty much improvement journey. Like if this is like if you know like one of your triggers is here, one of your triggers is there. When you see this automatically happens. You make a mission to be like, okay, this is one of the issues I have to get over, and you pretty much have to beat it down and demolish it until you completely own it. And then once you own it and once you control it, then you have more power over it. And the relation to that, to controlling your triggers, to controlling yourself, is there's actually two werewolf movies that demonstrate what happens when you're able to completely control yourself. One is pretty much Dog Soldiers. Pretty much the Dog Soldiers, you have soldiers, real like soldiers having a training exercise, fighting a pack of werewolves that function as a perfect unit. And we're talking like a group of werewolves that functions as a unit. There's no dumb werewolves here. They all kind of use the strategy of bait or testing the defenses, knowing where to go and how to go. And yeah, I pretty much, if you're a werewolf fan, or if you want to see something new on your Halloween categories, I would definitely suggest Dog Soldiers. It has a nice bit of scares. The special effects are there too. It's all great. That's all. I think it's marvelous. And of course, we see this perfectly with Underworld, with the first Underworld. I don't know if you've seen it, but in Underworld, it goes on in the beginning about talking about pretty much vampires and werewolves, and then it literally goes with one of the quotes from the lead that goes, younger werewolves still obey the moon, but older, more powerful lycans can transform at will. And to have that amount of control, to where instead of going, okay, I gotta wait till the moon is here, or I gotta do this, or I gotta have this around to do this, to have that control to where it's like, and then you just go into it. That's what happens when you perfect your self-control, when you no longer obey your triggers, but also no longer have to have an additional something to do something. And I'll pretty much emphasize that one day, but pretty much like when you need something to do something, like I think the joke for some of that is, for something is some people think that, oh, I'm a social drinker, which means when I only drink when it's around people, that way I'm more social. Well, focus on being more social, and then maybe you don't need to drink. You know, it's sometimes nerve-wracking. Yes, you sometimes have some awkward moments, but if you can discipline yourself to where you can talk, to where you can have a conversation, to where you can be comfortable in a group of people without feeling tipsy, I mean, that is awesome control amongst itself. That is like great power, to be honest. And that's pretty much, I guess, reverse triggers to where it's like saying, instead of having pretty much when something triggers you, makes you go for this thing, the second part of self control is where it's like you don't need anything. You know you have everything right here, and you just go into it. But that is my spiel. So for self control is understand what triggers you, understand what you think you may need, understand what causes you to go have uncontrollable cravings, uncontrollable fury, sadness, fear, anxiety, all that stuff. Understand it. Two is if is one of the ones that doesn't cause extreme anxiety, if it causes like sadness, fear, if you gorge yourself, either keep it away or keep it at bay until the right time. Sometimes don't have it, don't see it, don't be near it. But if it's something you have to manage, if you have to use more of that self-control, just wait till you can push it away or wait till you can unleash it at a certain time. And then, of course, the last one is put it to a cause, put it to a focus, put it to improving yourself, that this is the dragon that you have to slay, and you must pretty much commit to slaying it until you just look at it one day and be like, okay. And I think that's a good bit to end right there. So that's my spiel on how to be less of a werewolf, but as usual, with underworld werewolves, I'd rather be that, especially just be the older, powerful, to where I can just like command it and be like, nah, I ain't doing this. And then, or yeah, I'll go full throttle in this and go full ahead. But as usual, I hope this landed for somebody. I hope this helps. My YouTube channel is Mind of Quan. Mind, you already know how to spell mind. Of, come on, we know how to spell of. And Quan, probably the only thing I may need to reinforce spelling. Quan. Look for FCM dash have self control, or you might be a werewolf. If this hit, please let me know. Like it, share it, comment. Doing this for y'all. I'm doing this for the people who are listening. Do this for the people who are trying to improve themselves. Use that nerdy wisdom that I decipher to apply to your life. That is the only reason I'm doing all this. Every character, every horror movie character, and soon, well, since it is horror movie, it's still villains, so I guess, and soon villains. But horror movies pretty much villains. Most of them are in one way or another. It's where you use heroes and villains to take a certain trait, decipher it down, and then put it into steps so that maybe you can implement it in your life to see if you can go for the better self, so that you can become the character, the hero, the heroine that you always dreamed of. I'm your host, Quan. Hope you have a good day, and deuces.